Hi, I'm author Nancy Flinchbaugh. In August of 2023, I traveled to Ghana to do research for a novel I intend to write. Recently, I interviewed my fellow travelers. My traveling companions included Diane Sanders, a student of history from Springfield, Ohio. Well, welcome, Diane Sanders. It's so good to see you this morning, and thank you for agreeing to share a little bit about our trip to Ghana last summer. And I just wanted to start by asking you what motivated you to travel to Ghana in the first place?
Good morning, Nancy. Well, I watched a guy on YouTube and he talked a lot about Black history, mainly where and how slavery started. And he decided that he was going to travel to all 54 countries on the continent of Africa. And he thought that this was something that all Blacks who could should do. And he went to Ghana during 2019, during the year of return. And this was something that the president of Ghana had organized for, and he invited Blacks who were descendants of slaves to return to Africa after 400 years after slavery ended. And this guy showed many videos during that year. A lot of famous Black people went over there during that time also. And Ghana looked nothing like what I had expected it to look. So basically, it was his videos that influenced me into wanting to see more of Ghana.
Wow, so he did video. It says he done videos on all the 54 countries in Africa, or just that?
Yes, so far he's visited 33 of them.
Wow, what's his name again? Or if people want to watch or listen to those, where could they find them? You said on YouTube?
His name is Go Black to Africa.
Go Black to
And that's
Africa. That's his.
G-O-2, number 2, Black
Oh,
to
okay.
Africa.
Okay. I should watch those. Must be very interesting. And out of all the ones you watched, Ghana really stood out to you because of the return, the invitation.
Yes.
That's cool. Okay, so what surprised you the most on our trip to Africa?
So what surprised me the most was that what they had portrayed in our media about Africa was just not the total truth. What was always shown on TV was starving children with big bellies and flies all around. They were always asking for money to help the children. But the capital of Ghana, Accra, was a huge city, much like any capital city in the US. And the hotel we stayed in was a 5-star hotel, which, gauging from what we've seen in the media, why would, how and when would they ever have a 5-star hotel? So
Yeah,
that really surprised me.
that's the first 5-star hotel I've ever stayed in.
Yeah.
It was very
It was,
nice. And yeah, there's so much development in Africa. And yeah, a lot of modern buildings and roads and cars. Yeah, some people's images are often not what the reality is. I can see what you're saying. Well, what were some of the highlights of the trip for you?
Well, for me, the highlights for me was the Cape Coast Castle. That was one of them. And that's where the slaves were held and loaded on boats to be shipped to the US and other countries. It was sobering and it was sad. I love the fabric store at the Macola Mall. And I've been buying fabric in the US for years, but this was a chance for me to get authentic African fabric. I enjoyed learning how the wax fabric was made at the boutique fabric store. I liked relaxing at the Boho Beach on the Atlantic Ocean. I enjoyed the visit to one of the guides' home in Old Town, Ghana. The family lived together and helped each other. And it was reminiscent of me, of how I grew up in Lima, Ohio, living in a place called the Village, which was an old army barracks that they turned into homes for Blacks. And then the spirits of the guys' homes reminded me of the spirit of the village among the residents there.
Wow, so that's a lot. I don't know if we can go back and just comment a little bit on some of those ideas. First of all, you said the Cape Coast Castle was very sobering, but it's one of the highlights for you. So it was just good to see there. What particular did you like about being at that castle?
Well, being able to see what the slaves actually went through at that time. The dungeons were dark. Um, it was just sad. You know, we have an idea of what slavery was like here in the United States, but we didn't have an idea, at least I didn't have an idea of what it was like from the beginning, where from being picked up to then how they ended here. They had,
go ahead.
pardon me?
Yeah, I think that was just so sobering. And we hear about the passage, the middle passage, in the boats, but I didn't really know what happened before that. So seeing those castles, you started to realize how awful that was. If somebody survived, they said only maybe 1 out of 5 people even survived being in those dungeons. So,
and they call it a castle, but really it's a dungeon. It should be called a dungeon. They were small rooms with thousands of people just crowded up in there, and they were dark. They may have had one light in this room, or maybe two. I mean, one window in this room, or maybe 2 windows in the room. And just thinking about that and seeing that, it was just mind-boggling.
I don't think I could have survived that, but
yeah,
you do have an appreciation for your ancestors who were able to survive something like that, how strong they were as individuals.
yeah. And if
And
it
then,
wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today, for the strong ones that survived. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is one positive thing about just seeing the strength of your ancestors. And I know you do a lot of sewing, so the fabric store was one of the things that you really enjoyed too.
Oh yes, I was just overwhelmed. I saw so much, and I just loved it. I just loved it. I could have stayed there all day long.
And then you saw when we went to the old town where they had kind of the common courtyard, and then the houses were off the courtyard, and there's a real communal sense where the families lived together in little houses around a common courtyard. And it reminded you of your childhood growing up in Lima in the village. So you had that sense of community in the village growing up also. Is that right?
Yes, yes. If you can imagine living on a small army barracks, and the homes were built like, there may have been like 4 to 6 homes built in a row connected to each other. And it was built sort of like in a circle. The homes were built sort of like in a circle. And there was like a common playground, common mail post office. And everyone knew each other. It was because it was small, everyone helped each other. Everyone, if something happened to one, everyone jumped in and they just helped. And that's the only place I've lived where I've seen that.
Yeah, not very common in the United States today, but that community, you can see how good that is, for people to be in community physically, close to each other. And we've become so isolated with our single family houses, which, have some advantages, but, we're just separated from each other, and that's not always healthy either. Well, what did you enjoy about the African culture?
What did I enjoy about the African culture? Well, really, it was the spirit of the people. They were peaceful, they were kind, they worked hard. You could see that they worked hard. They wore clothes made from fabric that they made. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was their style, not our style, but their culture style.
Yeah.
The women wore dresses and skirts. The majority of them wore dresses and skirts, and they carried the baskets on their heads, and that made them look very regal too, because they had to be straight. I mean, their backs were
Yeah.
straight, heads were straight, and they were looking straight ahead, and they were covered up. They still practice modesty, so I really like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the colorful fabric really stood out to me, that it's so joyful, and
Mm-hmm.
even the uniforms of the children, when we saw the classes together at different places, they would have these bright colors on. And we,
And bright colors helps the spirit, doesn't it?
yeah,
It just, yeah, it keeps you lifted up.
yeah, it seems like there's a very bright aspect to the culture, the
Mm-hmm.
dancing, the drumming, the singing, the music, the
Mm-hmm.
fabric. Yeah. So one of the things we did was to go to the naming ceremony. Can you tell me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that and what it meant to you?
Well, the naming ceremony to me, it was a spiritual experience. I felt a sort of cleansing from it. It's like my last name was given to me by my ancestors from their slave masters. My last name's original roots are Dutch and German, and it's sort of like a branding that's still on us, was still on me, that was still attached to me. So the naming ceremony was like a vestige of slavery was removed. So it was a spiritual event for me. Oh, and I said, and by the way, my African name is Adjua Amposima.
And what does that mean?
Well, it means that I am uh, strong and powerful. So, and it also Adjua, it means that I was born on a Monday. So, and that's true. So,
I can remember that when you got that, you said it really resonated with you. And you said, I'm strong in who I am. I don't need anybody else to be complete.
yes, that's right. Strong and complete. That's right. Strong and complete.
And
Mm-hmm.
that was what was so interesting to me, that all of the African Americans on our trip felt like the name they were given just really resonated with who they were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was very cool. And
Mm-hmm.
they began with that libation ceremony, and you had a sense, I guess that's calling the ancestors and the elders. That was, I thought, I was a witness, but
Oh, yes.
I was very moved by that also. I thought it was wonderful.
Yes.
So are you planning to return to Ghana? And so what more do you want to see and do there?
Well, I am planning to return to Ghana soon if the Lord is willing. It may be in the spring, but if not, definitely in August. I would like to see the other slave dungeon. There's another slave dungeon there called Elmina Castle. And I would like to visit the in Chim Chim Museum. And they have a lot of artwork that tells the story of the transatlantic slave trade.
Mm.
It shows sculptures of the slaves waiting in the ocean, being led to the slave boats, never to return again.
Mm.
And just looking at the pictures of that, online, it's emotional. But I definitely want to see that.
Mhm.
And I definitely want to go back to the fabric store at the McCullough Mall.
So you're gonna start sewing up a storm here pretty soon, huh? With all your African fabric.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. Yes.
I've got some fabric and I want to figure out what I would like. I haven't sewn for so long, but I would like to try to make some things. So I might need to be talking to you about that. What you would
Yeah.
suggest?
Okay.
Would you suggest that other people travel to Ghana?
definitely recommend that others travel to Ghana. For Blacks, especially, to see where they may have originated from, for both Blacks and whites to see that what we have been taught about Africa is a lot different than how Africa has been portrayed to us through the school books and the media. So it's an eye-opening experience, and I don't know, the people are friendly. The atmosphere was great. So yes, I definitely recommend that anyone that can go make at least one trip.
And you mentioned the YouTube guy had talked about Ghana because there was a call for people to return, and that was something at the Slave Coast, the Cape Coast Castle, where they had the door of no return. They've put a new sign over at the door of return on the other side, welcoming the diaspora back. So I guess that's another reason to come back, to be welcomed back and to learn about the land of your ancestors.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Was
It
there
was
anything
just a
else?
trip.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Well, no, I think that was it. I think that's it. I
Okay.
think we covered most of everything.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for meeting with me again and telling your stories about Ghana, and hopefully that will encourage others to go and visit.
Yes.
Nice to talk to you today. Thank you, Diane.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Have a good evening. Bye.
This is author Nancy Flinchbaugh. Thank you for listening. Follow me on social media to hear more interviews with Ghana travelers and read my African blog on nancyflinchbaugh.com. I also encourage you to read or listen to Revelation in the Roots Emerald Isle, available on Amazon. I write for change, planting seeds for a just world where we work together to solve problems and respect the human rights of every person. Have a great day.